All right, we have here the women's under 17 final at the start line. In the lane closest to you, that's Audrey Lida out of the Y Quad Cities. In lane 2, that's Row House. Lane 4, Y Quad Cities again. Lane 5, Row House again. Lane 6, Winnipeg. And lane 7, Victoria City. So that's really, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 rowing clubs represented here, but we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 athletes. So an impressive showing of Y Quad Cities and Row House to get 2 athletes here in the women's under 17 single final.
Yes. So right now they're sitting up in the gates, getting ready to go, making sure their point is straight. The wind is treating us well today. A slight crosswind, pushing them very slightly to starboard. But again, it's very slight. Good weather here.
Yeah, we'll see here. We haven't had too much in the way of junior small boat racing today, so it might be interesting to see how these less experienced athletes, that's just a fact. These athletes racing in the under 17 single, that means they cannot turn 17 in 2018 this year. They cannot turn 17, so you're going to find that they are in, grade 9, in grade 10, pretty new to the sport relative to some of the athletes that we've seen throughout the rest of the day. They likely, some of them perhaps even racing at their first Henley Regatta, maybe their first championship regatta. So it'll be interesting to see how they can handle maybe not the most challenging conditions we've seen for finals so far this week, but in the single, it can be very difficult. The single is a challenging boat to row.
Yes. It definitely is, and it's challenging to sit up at half slide and go straight to full speed. A few athletes caught water there, but it was overall a pretty good start. Everybody winding it up, getting going.
And you can just see on the right side of your screen, one of the umpires, they'll have 2 umpires following each of the finals down. So what they're going to do, they're going to climb in, they're going to get behind, 1 or 2 of the crews. They're just going to sit back there. What the umpires are here to do to make sure racing is fair and safe. Those are their 2 priorities, fair and safe. So the main thing they're going to be watching for, hopefully, no, of course, medical concerns. Ideally, all they should be able to have to worry themselves with is making sure that the athletes do not cross the buoy lines. So it's kind of like driving a car. You have to stay in your lane. You're not supposed to cross over into the other lanes. That's what the umpires are going to do. They're just going to make sure that the athletes are not impeding other athletes, not sending a wash down, not getting in front, not cutting off, just staying in their lane.
All right. So getting down to base pace, most crews are at about a 30 to 32 right now, it looks like. Still a tight race at the start here. Everybody is shifting down to that base rhythm, as I said, getting long and strong and just really powering here, setting a rhythm that's sustainable but aggressive.
Of course, last year we had this event won by Abby out of Leander Rowing Club in Hamilton, Ontario. Abby moved up to the under 19 category this year. She raced in the under 19 single, had a pretty good showing in the final last year for her first year in under 19 racing. She also had a pretty good showing at the Schoolboy Regatta this year, where she won the senior lightweight girls double. So well done to Abby last year. We'll see if that might be a little bit of inspiration as the athletes draw through the first quarter of this race. That looks to be, I think, Winnipeg.
Yes.
That's, you know what, that's another young athlete named Abby. So we'll see.
So Winnipeg, they are followed by Row House, and then it's still pretty tight here in the field.
Yeah, not a whole lot to give, and of course the single, it can change hands, change leads very easily, very quickly. Those are boat speeds that, compared to an 8, the boat speed is not as quick, and it's also significantly lighter than an 8, so it can also get up to speed as much as it can lose speed very quickly. So lead changes can happen, with a little more frequency here in the U17 women's single here at the Canadian Henley Regatta.
Yes, I'm sure there's going to be some switches in placement throughout the field. So right now, coming we're at about the 700-meter mark here. Most crews are. So you're just coming through that little patch of the course where the water is just a touch swirly because it opens up with a gap between the island and the next piece of land. It still looks like Winnipeg is just walking away. That's Abby Dent. Walking away from the field. Good rhythm, sitting up tall. Her posture looks awesome, and good clean finishes from her. And she's just really sending it with every stroke. You can see she has a lot of power and a lot of and a good clean finish, so that the boat runs out and she gets the most out of every single stroke she puts in.
And you know, I was mentioning earlier, of course, last year this event won by Abby Mallette out of Leander Rowing Club. Abby Dent perhaps inspired by that. Another thing to be inspired by, a couple different options. She can almost have her selection from 2 years ago. This was won by Grace Vanderhoven out of the Peterborough Rowing Club. Grace raced at Junior Worlds last year in the double. They placed I believe second or third, I forget off the top of my head. Grace racing the single this year at Junior Worlds, so Abby perhaps inspired by that as she's just dominating this performance here halfway through the race in the women's under 17 single. That's Abby Dent.
And you know what? She's only at a 26-27
Wow.
stroke rate, so that is just pure power. All right, so the rest of the field in second, we have three people dead even. That is 2 Y Quad City boats. And
one of the row house, I believe.
Yeah, and they're dead across even right now. Big fight for second right now. They are followed by Victoria City.
And the other row house, I believe that is.
Yeah. Wow. So it's impressive to see that much power to be able to keep pushing away from the field at such a low cadence. So the stroke rate is the number of strokes per minute for those non-rowers out there that you take per minute. It's kind of like the cadence and the rhythm. Usually in a single, you're racing around a 30 for an under 17 single, and she is at a 25 right now.
Really, she might, you know what, she might be a little newer to the sport, perhaps not as comfortable, not as technically refined, but she's likely, and you can see by what she's doing out there, quite strong, quite powerful. So she might not be, you know, comfortable at the higher rates, not comfortable turning the stroke rate over as often, but is comfortable putting some strength through her legs onto the oars, locking on. So that's probably what her coach, Janine Stevens, has done to help the rig, help set up Abby Dent for success out of the Winnipeg Rowing Club. Of course, another potential source of inspiration for Abby, who's doing so well right now in the women's under 17 single, the senior women's program out of Winnipeg this year. Excellent, being kind of led by Michelle Truax, who has had an excellent Henley. I believe she won the senior pair and the senior single. So Michelle Truax, perhaps a bit of a, you know, in-club inspiration for Abby Dent right now, who's really dominating the rest of the field with a nice controlled rhythm here as we approach the 1,500-meter mark of the final of the women's under 17 single.
Yes. So coming into that final 500, technique of Abby is still looking sharp. She's still sitting up tall, good posture. She is still at that low cadence at about a 26 right now, 27, and just powerfully sending it and getting through into that last 500. Big gap between her and the rest of the field.
Wow. That
yes.
is I think we're going to, you
Ooh.
just had a bow come on the screen as Abby leaves the screen.
Wow.
That is lane 4, Y Quad Cities.
Followed by Y Quad Cities in lane 2, followed by Row House.
So really hotly contested second place. Of course, this is Canadian Henley. There are only gold medals, but those athletes, really 3 crews battling it out for that second place position, trying to get themselves into kind of the moral victory, you might call it, in the second place.
Yes, yeah. Sometimes you say to yourself, yes, it is about winning, but it's about maximizing what you can do with every single stroke, and it's about trying to find your best race for your development. So it's really important to have that kind of idea, because a lot of pressure can be put on winning, but only one person wins. So these top 3 crews going for second are about maximizing their race, having the best race possible, and showing themselves what they're capable of doing.
You know, I think that's an especially important thing to note with kind of the under-experienced, less experienced, the under-17 events, even the under-19 events. You want to make sure that you're doing the best that you can do today. That's the kind of number one place to start at, that you as an athlete, you're going out, you're doing everything that you are capable of. You know, if you're sick, maybe you take that into account. You know that you're sick, you still do the best that you can do, and then you learn from it. You have to be able to take what hasn't gone as well as you might have hoped, maybe where you've fallen short of your goals. You take that, you think about it, you consider it, and you try and incorporate something to make a change, to make up for that, and improve yourself going forward.
Yes. All right. So last 200, 150 meters for Abby here. You can just see her on the screen, and there's the bow of the next crew coming on. So it is going to be Abby Dent coming to the line. She is bringing the rate up a little bit now, just emptying the tank and giving it all that she has. She's at about a 29:30 now, coming to the line. And just finishing it off. She's got to be feeling good right now, got to be feeling confident. She should be smiling and just enjoying that moment of Henley Gold in her last 3 strokes here.
So here in the picture in the bottom right-hand side, you can probably just keep an eye on Abby as she hopefully does some sort of celebration. Congratulations to her. But on the rest of your screen, an exciting finish here for the second place. That looks to be, I think, Y Quad Cities, the lane 4, Brenna Morley, really tight in there with Row House and the other Y Quad Cities. So really well rowed to all these athletes here in the women's under 17 single final at the 136th Royal Canadian Henley.
Yes, so it is Winnipeg, Abby Dent with a winning time of 8:41.16. She led Y Quad Cities by 7 seconds. So Y Quad Cities in lane 4 with coming in second with a time of 8:48.47. They are followed by the screen has different lanes than everyone else, but we're good. They were followed by Row House.